Okay, let this should be part two, continuation of our ideas about humankind and the human race, and some possibilities and ideas about us and where we stand in existence in the universe in terms of an origin of us and purpose and whatnot. We in the first one we talked about modifications and influences in Earth organisms to result in what we have today. And let us use that concept, that mechanics of that, but instead let us switch the source of who's doing the modification to a much more natural one, which is nature, either the nature of existence or the nature specifically of the planet Earth. So here you have a planet Earth, and for some reason, okay, we have a nature of basic things, properties, simple structures, okay, and interaction developing, okay, into complex structures and interaction. Okay, why is that? We like to, traditionally we like to describe that being the case because that serves some kind of benefit. And that's a very good way to look at things. Okay, it's overall, sometimes it takes a larger perspective to see, okay, why or whatnot, but overall it does seem quite irrational for things to happen for no reason and for things to happen that do not benefit something. Okay, it just doesn't make any sense. It seems more, and by seems it doesn't mean, I'm not saying seems because for our logic and reasoning, but we're also saying it seems that way because we then look at the results of, okay, the changes, the evolutions and stuff. We look at the results of that, and when we see those results, we see a benefit for that. We understand what the trend, we understand the tendency of what nature is doing. Okay, let us take that trend, okay, that tendency of what nature is doing, and let us connect that to some intention. Let us connect that to some intelligence, okay, and some kind of intelligence is directing that. What would that intelligence be? Where would that intelligence be coming from then? Who is going to get attached to that intelligence? Well, like we said in the beginning of this video, we're going to think of it in the source in terms of the planet, okay? The planet has a tendency and a nature, a behavior, a pattern, or a trend, but the planet has a nature, and that nature seems to be development. That nature seems to be interaction, okay, as opposed to isolation, okay, and that nature seems to be a development of a simple or basic into a more complex, more evolved, more refined interaction or process, a more refined or dynamic interaction and process. So we have the planet doing this. Why would the planet do this? Why is there any need for things to get more complex? Why, let's really get to the nuts and bolts here. Let's get to the nitty-gritty, right? We say certain things, but let's try to apply them in a more global sense. We say, oh, well, it does that because it helps it survive more. Well, why is it beneficial for something to survive longer? Right? It just seems natural. It seems to make a lot of sense to us. Well, these more complex, structures, these more complex interactions, these more complex organisms can live longer now because of that. Well, why is that beneficial? Well, what do you mean, why is it beneficial? Well, see, it makes sense to us as right, yeah, yeah, it's cool to live longer, right? But why? Why is death, or the end of its operation something negative, okay, or undesirable? A lot of hints right there, right? A lot of hints right there. If nature seems to want to extend life, extend operation, okay, that might give us a lot of hints about what we're dealing with on the other side, or what we're dealing with when that operation stops, when there is a death, when the organism ceases to function. As you can imagine, that's a whole nother set of videos, sort of one that probably connects, or topics can involve. We can find topics relating to that in all of our videos, or in anything, right? We're talking life and death now. But let's just talk about the life part. And things are getting more complex and more, dynamically interacting. And how does that benefit? And even if one of the big benefits is because it's living longer, why is that beneficial to live longer? Once again, it's not just well, it's good to live longer because death is terrible. Well, you know what I mean? There's more to that. There should be. We can elaborate on that more. Even if that is true, we can elaborate on that more and stuff. Well, the longer something lives, the more it gets to operate, the more it gets to quantify, the more it gets to understand, the more it gets to input things, right? So the more it gets to answer things, the more it gets to identify, the more it gets to distinguish. Or at least it seems that way, right? But that's what it seems that way to me, as long as I've reviewed it. Why is it good to distinguish and identify things and stuff? Well, the more something identifies something, the more it can stabilize it. So the more it can, the more it could help the process of living longer and getting more complex. Probably part of the process of getting more complex, okay, is having a greater identity and a greater understanding. At some point, you need to have a greater understanding and identity and distinction in order to get more complex. And the funny thing is, the more complex, the more you distinguish, the more you probably realize that you are not actually distinct, or you are also equal to the very same things you are distinguishing yourself from. Okay, you know where that's going also.